Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode. Today, I have my dear friend. She has been on the show before, and I will keep having her on the show as much as she is willing to show up for me. Dhariana Lozano is amazing, in my opinion. We met on the stage speaking at a conference, and
Yeah.
she has been my marketing BFF ever since. So,
Yes,
Dhariana,
same here.
thanks so
And I
much
will
for
keep
coming back
coming
on.
I will keep coming back as long as you'll have me. Thank you so much. These are always so fun, and I feel like I always take something away that I learned from you, and I feel like there's always
Well,
some
I appreciate that.
yeah,
I
there's
do.
always some fun tangents we go on, and it's just a good time. So thank you for
I
having me
know.
again.
You know what? It really is. And every time we like message each other or brainstorm together, we and for everybody listening, Dariana and I will text each other, message each other, and come up with these really big ideas of things that we want to do. And we have so many amazing ideas
So
of
many.
things we can do and collaborate. We just can't figure out which one to execute. So
That really is the problem. Like, it's always like, okay, but which one first? We promise we're working on it. We're narrowing it down. Okay. Something
we
will
are.
launch.
We
We are in a
absolutely
pressure
are.
cooker and we need to get these things going. But yeah, it's always like there's just so many good ideas. And I'm sure a lot of people that listen to this podcast can probably relate to that. Being an entrepreneur,
Right?
that's a part of the thing, right? You have to come up with different solutions. And so sometimes it's hard
Yeah.
to like focus.
It really is. And that's where we're at right now with
Yeah.
where do we want to focus on our collaboration project. But we are going to figure it out. Just like Dariana said, we are going to figure
Yeah.
it out and it is going to be huge. So you're going to have to
Yeah.
keep watching both of us to figure out what that is. So
Yeah, we're
anyhow,
finally
but
getting it together after like 6 years, 5 years. I
I
don't know how long
know.
it's been now.
I know. I'm not sure either, but it has been a while.
Yeah,
But anyhow, Dariana, for those of you who don't know who Dariana is, can you introduce yourself and just share a little bit about you?
absolutely. I am Dhariana Lozano. I am a brand strategy and social media strategy consultant. I have an agency based in New York City, and we have been in business for 10 years. I've been in the social media marketing world for 15 years, which is crazy to say, but here we
Right?
are. And I've mostly helped, I've worked all over from B2B businesses to not sexy things like financial publications. And with the agency, I worked with a lot of small startups like mom and pop shops. And so I have a wide range of experience. And now I'm focusing on helping women in the C-suite, women entrepreneurs, and associations with working on their brand strategy to establish impactful brands.
I love it. And that's like right in line with everything that I do with women
Yeah.
entrepreneurs, but you're doing C-level, so it's a little bit different, but still
Yeah.
empowering women is so important in my opinion. So
My best clients have always been women. And I
really?
just love, yeah, and I always just love helping other women. I know we deal with a lot just being women in general
Yeah.
as a baseline. So if there's
Yeah.
anything I can teach people, and I like to teach people and empower them so that when they work with me, it's principles that they can adjust to any stage that they're at in their business. It's not
Mhm.
just like, oh, I'm just getting started. It's really about, it's not like a 1, 2, 3 step plan. I know we'll talk about that in a little bit. So I'm excited to be here and chat with you about brand strategy.
Yeah. Well, we are going to talk about brand strategy today. And you know what? I kind of noticed lately, like branding, brand strategy, they're starting to
Mm,
feel like buzzwords anymore.
they
But,
are.
right? Okay. So I'm like, I feel
Yes,
like
it's
people
not
throw
just
it
you.
out, but it's
Yeah.
like, do you even know what you're saying? You're just throwing it out there. Like, so, so
How
let's
nice,
just,
Deanna, to just call people out. I love it.
hey, I don't care about calling people out. I mean, I won't ever say the name, but
No,
if
but
there's
in
somebody just
general, there's
choosing,
yeah, you're right. People just throw it's the same thing with like social media consultants, managers. It's like we hear a lot of BS out there. So
oh,
we
you
like
hear
to cut
so
through
much
all that
BS.
noise. Yeah.
Especially when you've been in it for 15 years doing this, and then you
Yes.
see somebody pop up and say, "Oh, I'm a social media manager," and the only thing they've managed is their own personal profile. You're like, "Do
Yeah.
people really believe you?" Like,
Or can you do it for a business? I mean, influencers, I always say this, I've lost business to influence, not lost business, but I've had the rebuttal, oh, this person can do it for this much, and that's
Mhm.
fine. They're
Yeah.
usually influencers, and not taking anything away from them. They've built up their account, so they really know their audience, and I applaud that. But
Yeah.
doing something for a business is completely different than for
So different.
yourself. So
I
interesting.
agree. I agree 100%. So we're going to set everything
Yeah.
straight. What is brand strategy? What does it really mean?
So, brand strategy is when you look at your brand, I like to say holistically, when you look at all the parts of it. So, not just your products and what you sell, but actually dive deeper into your mission, what you really want to help people with, how you do that. It also includes obviously branding, which is, your brand colors, the look and feel of your brand, fonts. So, it's really just I like to look at the overall goals of a business and then work backwards from there and figuring out what we do. Because I've had businesses come to me and say, okay, we want to, we're ready for social media. Let's do it. And then I'm like, well, maybe your type of business doesn't need social media to this extent right now. It might be better for you to spend this budget on public relations or building an email list. So there's just so many different ways that you can use a budget. And I like to make sure that we're going step by step and that we're actually encompassing all of the things that you want to accomplish and not
Mhm.
skipping things.
I love that you share that because I think that so many times everybody thinks that you've got to start with social media. You got to be there. In fact, some small businesses who might be listening right now will start on social media and not even have a website. And so I love that you said you've got this
Right.
budget and social media. It could be the best place to start, but it may not be necessarily. Like everybody is
Exactly.
really unique and you have to look at what your business is to make that
Right.
decision. So thank you for sharing that. I appreciate
Yeah,
that.
of course. And you mentioned small businesses. We work with a small business. They moved actually from New York City to a suburb. And the way we approached what we were doing in the city is very different than what we're doing where they are now because it's a lot more of a community thing. Like people
Mhm.
aren't when you're in the city, you can blast something on social media, people can hop on the subway and get there.
Yeah.
This is a very different life where they are now. So it's more about engaging the community and how we do that. So you that's why brand strategy is so important because social media might not be where you need to be or where you need to spend money. And so it bothers me when businesses don't think about that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's great advice. So what are some, because that is one misconception is what how
Yeah.
I'm hearing it. But are there other misconceptions about building a brand that you see?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, a lot of people just hear brand and go straight to branding with, when we're talking about colors,
Yeah.
logos, fonts. And I think that's super important because I always talk about how you have to visually establish who you are. But
Mhm.
it's not just about that. And I think that's where people kind of get confused like, oh, yeah, branding, I have that. Like, but what's the actual plan behind getting your business in front of the people that you need to get it to? So for
Mhm.
me, like I think that's one of the biggest ones. People just automatically think it's like logos and things like that. Very important. Not disagreeing. But it's not the only piece.
Right. So they need to really understand what their goal is and who they're
Yeah.
targeting. And that's part of
Those are
that
the
brand
two.
strategy.
Yeah, those are the two main things. It's who you're targeting, who you are, and then how you communicate that to the people that you want to reach. Those are the three main things for me when it comes to brand strategy.
Yeah.
Obviously, you need to stand out visually, but that goes into who you are. So there's so many different moving parts, and we had to take all of them and kind of have them be a cog in the machine that makes
Right.
everything go.
Do you find when you're working with clients on their brand strategy that sometimes you might encourage them to hear their brand voice and who they are,
Mhm.
but they kind of fall into this trap of what they think they should be based on everything that they've seen or heard
Yeah.
up until that point? You do see that?
Absolutely. Yeah, because I mean, it happens to all of us. I think it's natural. You you look for the blueprint. You look for that 1, 2, 3 solution, right? Like do this. Yeah, I use this as an example recently on my social media posts. It's like I could tell you that if you post 3 times a week at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and 2 of those posts are reels and 1 is a carousel, that in 3 months from now, your account is gonna blow up. But I'm not a liar, so I'm not gonna tell you to do that.
Right.
And I think it's natural for us to look for a structure, which is fine. But I think the way businesses are nowadays, you kind of set that for yourself. You have to be in competition with yourself and see what works for you. Because one thing I learned about, in my career is that even if you have two businesses in the same niche, the things that work for one won't work for the other. And so we have to really personalize things and figure out what works. Another thing is that there's a lot of advice out there, right? There's a lot of
So
accounts
much
telling
advice.
you
Yeah.
what to do. And you're like, well, I heard this and I heard that. And there's these generalities that get made. And
Yeah.
I like to get to the soul of what the business is. And
Mhm.
then of course there's just that feeling of them wanting to, it's your business, so it's very important to you.
Yeah.
But what you feel is important is not always what your audience needs to hear in order for them to move to buy from you.
Oh, say
And I
that one
think,
more time. Say that
of
again.
course.
I'm like, I processed it, but I'm like, that sounds like it's a nugget.
So your business is super important to you. It's your
Yeah.
world, right? This is your baby. You started your business. You believe in it. And there are
Yeah.
things that you think are important, but that's not necessarily how your audience sees it. And it's not necessarily what they need to hear in order to buy from you. And it happens a lot. It's happened to me. It happens to
Yeah.
everybody. You're just too close. And so that's why it's helpful to have someone like me come in and say, hey, I know what you're trying to say, but that's not what's important to your audience. That's not the way to express that problem that they're dealing with, to make them aware and say, oh, this is how this service or this product can help me.
I have fallen guilty to that too,
Of course. Of course.
which now I kind of do this little thing, and I don't know if you do it too. And I think we've actually talked about it, but
Yeah.
I'll listen to what people are saying when they have a struggle in something that I do,
Mhm.
and I'll copy and paste it and put into a spreadsheet and then evaluate those problems and
I love that.
repurpose their words for
That's
content.
genius. No, that's absolutely genius. And as business owners, we have to learn to listen more than what we want to say. You know it's important. I know it's important what you're
Yeah,
doing. You wouldn't be doing it and putting all your blood, sweat, and tears into this, because it's not easy being a business owner unless
yeah,
you believe in this thing that you're doing. And
yeah,
I totally agree with that. I'm
yeah,
with you.
yeah.
But
I'm so
I'm with you
glad.
there. But
Yeah,
when you, as the audience, like, you're not, I don't know who you are. Why does it
right,
matter to, like, why do you matter to me? Who cares?
right, right.
Unfortunately, but yes, who cares? Like,
Right. And it's so true because a lot of times, and I've seen this and I've done it, and
yeah,
I'll share what I think is important.
right.
But even though the concept might be the
Mhm.
same,
Yes,
the words and the
1,000%.
delivery are different. And
Yes,
they didn't hear it until I realized that and had to shift and
exactly.
you repurpose their own words. Honestly,
That's so
that's what I
genius,
did.
though. That's so genius. Listen to your audience, write it down, and come
Do
back
it.
to it and look at it, and then tell them how they told you.
Yeah,
Essentially,
exactly.
that's really,
Exactly.
really, really smart. That's a really smart thing to do. And you can also even, like, look at competitors if you don't have any clients just yet. If
Yeah.
you take a look at reviews for competitors, or just take a look online, people are happy to share when they're not happy about
Right.
things, or what can be improved. That's a place to start as well. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think we just get caught up. We're too close. And that's all right.
Absolutely. It's okay. We've all been
Yeah,
there, right?
we've all been there. A
We've all
thousand,
been there.
yes, yeah. Because you're like, this thing is great. Here's what I love about it, but
Right.
it's
They're
not
like, "Yeah,
necessarily
so
gonna
what?
land.
It doesn't mean
Yeah,
anything to me," right?
right.
Or you use lingo in your
Yeah.
right? You use your lingo that you hear all the time,
Hmm.
and other people are like, "I don't know what you're talking about." And I share this
Exactly.
a lot, this story, which has nothing to do with marketing, but it was an example. I was
Yeah.
designing a website, and I kept asking the client, I had their photos, I had, like, all
Okay.
their other assets, the logo and color, all that,
Yeah.
but I didn't have the copy that they wanted to use, and they were providing their own
Okay.
copy. So which is the text that goes onto the website, but I kept asking them for copy, "Can you give me copy?" and they weren't responding. And then finally they said, "What is copy?" And I'm like,
Wow,
"Oh,
okay.
right?" Like it was a word that
Yeah,
I
that's
used all the
so we
time, and
use that all the time. Yep,
right.
that's a
And
perfect
I was like,
example.
"Oh my gosh, they have no idea what I'm talking about. No wonder they're ignoring me. They don't know
Yeah,
what I'm asking for." And in my industry, it
this
is a
happens
basic
so
word. You say that, and I
yeah,
didn't even think about it or realize it. And that's a mistake that you could be making based on what you're
an easy
saying,
one. Mhm.
right? That you're using your lingo and your ideal client has no idea what that word even means at that yet.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yet, exactly, you were here to
Yet.
tell them. Well, I run across that a lot with saying strategy because then people don't know what that is.
Yeah.
So I have to adjust what I'm saying or how I'm expressing it, and,
Right.
you know, that's a challenge that I've dealt with kind of the whole time I've been working is how do you sell strategy? It's not just my issue, it's a big one across the board. I've spoken to a lot of experts who are like, "Yes, strategy is, like, really hard to explain
Yeah.
and sell because it's just a hard concept to for anyone
It
to
is.
grasp." Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely is. So, when you're thinking of your brand and you're coming up with this brand strategy, like the share again, and maybe there's some more
Yeah.
items other than what you mentioned, but that foundational elements, those things that you absolutely need to establish before you even get into the strategy.
Yeah. So you want to first and foremost know yourself and what you stand for. So that's your point of view. I always say, think about the thing that you want to shout from the rooftops. Like, what is that message that you want to get out there? What
Mhm.
your mission is, and then how you express it. So it's like what we just talked about.
Yeah.
How do you express brand strategy? I have to kind of take a step back and say, I don't if I'm talking to someone who has no idea what brand strategy is, how do I do that? And
Yeah.
so from there, I've broken it down into different pillars in my content that I talk about, whether that's, how to get more clients, or maybe your Instagram isn't performing how you want. And so that's the vehicle that I use to kind of give you what you want. But
Mhm.
then if you work with me, then I'm delivering what you actually need hidden in that concept. I know moms can probably relate. Your kid doesn't want to eat vegetables, you might cover them in cheese or something. I don't know. But first of all, yeah, you need to establish who you are and your goals and what you want to do, because that becomes like your North Star. That's the thing you're going to follow that keeps you from creating campaigns that don't make sense, or maybe like we going viral shouldn't be like a goal, but if you want to participate in trends, it's like, which ones do you participate in? Well, if you know who you are, what your voice is, if you are more buttoned up or if you are more fun, it kind of gives you more of a direction of what to participate in, what not to participate in.
Mhm.
Because obviously if you participate in a trend that doesn't make sense, it just comes off like, oh, what are they doing? Like, that doesn't make
Right.
sense. So you need to be really rooted in that and figure that part out. And then who you want to reach, not just knowing exactly who you want to reach. Niching down is hard. I know, I've been there. It's hard to really focus, and
Yes,
sometimes we
it
get
is.
pigeonholed, and
It
that's
is
okay.
good.
Sometimes you get led one way, but I think it's important to also establish who you want to go after, because that's going to help you with all your messaging and how you talk to people and
Mhm.
what problems they have that you can solve. Speaking their lingo, figuring out what that is.
Yeah.
So knowing who you want to go after is really important. And then within that, again, knowing who they are
Yeah.
and how you can help them. So figuring out where they hang out, again, what their lingo is, what challenges they're facing, how you fit into that puzzle, because who you who your ideal client is, it should lead you in your
Yeah.
content and how you talk to people, not the other way around.
Right.
We tend to try to lead that conversation, but we should take a hint from our audience. So it's really important to know who they are, and that's where we create that crossroads of what you want to say and how you need to say it in order to reach them.
Mhm. Yeah.
And yeah, those are the two main ones, and then obviously your goals feed into all that. But establishing those two, I think, are the most important. Um, because then those branch out into all the things we talk about when we talk about colors and
Yeah.
what your messaging sounds like and who you are. um so that's where I would those are the basics. Your point of
And
view,
yeah,
and then from there
I
comes the
love
content
that.
and all those things. Yeah.
I love that you shared, like, that comes first even before the color, because I
Yeah.
geek out on color psychology. If you listen to this
So do I.
podcast, you know that.
Yeah.
So a lot of times people will pick just their favorite color for their company brand because they like that
Yeah.
color, but it could work, but it also may send a totally different vibe, a different feeling and emotion. So I love that you shared that setting that up, you know who you're targeting, you know what your authentic
Mhm.
voice is going to be. You're going to
Yes.
know if that color aligns with that branding goal. So thank you for
Yeah.
sharing that.
Thanks.
I didn't think about that, but I'm like, gosh, that makes so much sense. That is how it should
Yeah.
be. So let's
Yeah.
talk a
Yeah.
little
Because
bit. Go ahead.
no, I was gonna say once you figure out what your vibe is, then it makes everything else so much easier. I love like creating moments of clarity and simplicity because it's like the one thing clicks and then everything becomes so much easier after that.
Oh my gosh, yes. 100%. It absolutely does. I want to talk a little bit about personal branding and company branding.
Yeah.
And first off, it sounds really obvious, but just share, like, what's the difference between the two types of branding?
So with a personal brand, I always find those they sort of align, right? Because even if you are a brand, there are certain things that your brand stands for and that you want to show people. So you have like company culture
Mhm.
or your way of working, and that can translate to a personal brand as well. I have split my presence online into myself and my business. So my business more is for excuse me, the B2B clients, associations. We would love to start working with B Corps, so that's a goal for us this year.
Mhm.
Whereas with my personal brand and like my coaching and things like that, I that's where I want to work one on one with women and women in the C suite and have more of that personal touch. So personal branding is not much different. It's more thought leadership, I think, than doing things for a business, although the business also has thought leadership. So they're very similar. But I think with the personal brand, obviously there's more personal touches. On my personal accounts, I talk about coffee or me having celiac and how I'm navigating that. Or, just I talk about I can get more friendly,
Yeah.
I think. Whereas with the business, we don't talk about those things as much. We kind of have a more quote unquote buttoned up presence, or we will have because I've been since the rebrand, we've kind of been quiet, but we're ramping that up again or getting ready to. So yeah, it's they definitely look different. The elements are there. The
Yeah.
elements are the same. And what we talk about are the same, the concepts are, but on my personal account, it's more for women and
Mhm.
entrepreneurship and things like that, whereas my business accounts will be more um, how to's, tips for organizations, things like that, if that
Yeah.
makes sense in the breakdown.
Yeah, well, it does because I also
Okay.
have 2 brands. I have a personal brand and
Yes.
then I have a company
Your
brand,
business.
and
Yeah.
they're different. And just recently on social, I've focused more on the personal brand
Yes, I
and
noticed you've
have
been going through that transition.
yes,
Yes.
I have been because I mean, I feel like I repeat myself on the company brand, and I feel like my
Probably too.
website, it just has
Yeah.
everything there, but my personal brand because my company is really me behind the brand anyhow.
Right.
So
Yes.
it's I've gone back and forth with this, right?
Yeah.
And maybe somebody listening can relate. It's like, okay, I've got
Of
a
course.
company, but I
Yeah.
have a personal brand. But I feel like the personal brand, everything I say on there aligns with the company brand because I do the
Right.
same thing. So it's this very similar audience.
Yeah.
And I personally like the personal brand better because of what you said. Like I can
Yeah.
share things in my life that I may not share on the company. Do
Right.
you think that doing that, and you're allowed to throw me under the bus, you're 100% okay, but do you think doing that is beneficial or it ends up hurting you?
No, I don't think you're wrong either way. I have more fun on my personal account as well. And I'm going to say this a personal brand, a human, a face will
Yeah.
always outperform a business. And so I think it is important for you to have both, especially in the world we're in today and as business owners, because
Mhm.
I might choose to quit doing this tomorrow, right? Like I could be like, I'm done with marketing. I don't want to do this anymore. But I still
There's
have
been
my
days.
personal brand.
No.
There have been days, 1,000%. That's why I'm texting you like, "Oh my gosh." But
I know exactly.
there yeah, so I could quit this tomorrow, but I still have my personal brand. That's where things feel lighter and more friendly, and I
Right.
get to express myself a little bit more. Not that that's wrong to do. I've seen people do it brilliantly with their business accounts, but it's a lot of what you said. If it works when the person is the brand kind of thing.
Yeah.
Whereas sometimes you do need to separate both. I think like in fashion, I think it's cool when it's mixed, but even there we see like the designers have a brand and then the actual fashion house has a brand and it's separate. So
True.
I think it depends a lot of what you want to do and if your business is not it's going to be aligned, but if your business does something different than like what your personal goals are, that's
Mhm.
okay to have it separate. But it's okay to mix them. Again, this is a case by case. I think for you, it
Yeah.
totally made sense to kind of streamline that because also like you're marketing yourself, like it's you and you're so inspirational. You've been through so many transformations and
Thank you.
so many pivots, and it's not a bad thing. I think it's a great thing. Um, but if you have your personal brand locked in, you can pivot wherever you need to, and hopefully your audience will follow you. That you're not starting from zero, and they're like your friends, right? Because we
They
share
are.
personal things. Yeah.
Yes, they really are. And I mean, it's so funny because I remember there was a time where people said that the people you're connected with on social media really aren't friends. And I have met so many amazing people, and I
Yes.
think that
I've
was
met.
the mindset back then. Like they were almost like
Yeah.
imaginary friends because you couldn't go get coffee
I'm
with
like
them,
the
right?
right.
But I'm like, I've met so many amazing men and women on social
Mm-hmm.
media that we've connected with and we've chatted and they've been on the
Yeah.
podcast and they've inspired me. And I'm like, I don't know. Yeah, maybe they're not the friends that you go grab coffee with or you go out to dinner with, but there's still that relationship there that you nurture,
Absolutely. Yeah.
and it's neat. I can reach out to them and still and ask a question about something and they're gonna help or answer it. And I think that's really
Yeah, for
cool.
sure. Yeah,
So
I love
a
that
lot
about being
of
online.
a lot of businesses want to grow their brand. Well, they want to grow
Hmm.
really, really fast. What are your
Yes.
thoughts with that?
If you want to grow
If
fast,
you want to, yeah, if they want to grow
yeah.
really quickly. It,
Quick growth comes with money. You have to spend money. You're either going to spend time or money. So it's like
yeah.
e- quick growth. You can also do like collaborations, which will take a little time to figure out who the right people to partner with are and what those partnerships can look like. It could just be a content partnership. It could be um, exchange of I'll promote you, you promote me, which obviously works really
Yeah.
well, but finding the right people that have the same audience you do or an audience that you want to reach, I think is really important. I'm not going to go on, I don't know, a random podcast. I want to make sure whatever I'm spending my time doing aligns with the people that I want to reach.
Hmm.
um, but then the other option is to spend money, and I find nothing wrong with spending money in order to grow. I mean, it's all about visibility, right? So you might pay to have an ad, or maybe you can work just reaching out to people and making connections and getting on the news or something like that. But it's going to take fast growth equals money to me. If
Yeah.
you're like, I just want to grow fast, I'm like, okay, cool. What's the budget?
What's the
And then
budget?
you can align. Yes,
Yeah.
fast growth ads or really like borrowing someone else's audience or getting in front of someone else's audience are the
Right.
two fastest way to grow. Yeah.
Right. And that's really great advice because I think a lot of people overlook the collaborative piece
Oh yeah.
a- of it. And I think people are sometimes afraid of competition. So, yeah, you
Yeah.
and I could be competitors. We are
Of course. Yeah.
competitors in a sense, right? I've
Yeah.
never looked at you as a competitor, but you are, and I am to
But we
you.
do the same. Yeah, we align in the same, but your
Right.
audience is going to be different than mine. And
Yeah.
I actually just put a video out about that. It's the way that I explain things might not land with people, which is
Right.
fine. Because then if they understand it from you, then okay, I'd rather you then go there. Like I
Right.
want everybody to succeed. So if you're
Yeah.
not for me, that's okay. There's somebody else that you will jive with.
Yeah.
So I
I
think that
agree.
people are afraid of that. And also collaborations aren't always the easiest things to put together because it's like, what do we do?
Right. Well, that's where we're struggling, right, with our big ideas. Although we do collaborate in a lot
We
of ways.
have the idea. Yeah, we collaborate in a lot of ways. But sometimes you don't even have the idea. It's like, oh, how do we
Yeah.
put these two things together in a way that's beneficial for both
Yeah.
parties? So I think
Definitely.
that's definitely the hesitation, but I think the competition piece is probably the biggest one.
Right. Right. I think
Yeah.
so too. So, Dariana, if you were starting over and you're early in your whole journey of branding, what is one piece of advice that you wish someone had given you when you
Oh,
started?
this is such a good question.
Because
Such a
I
good
know we've
question.
both made a lot of mistakes along the way.
Yes, we have. It's okay though. We learn,
It is
right?
okay,
They're
right?
learning opportunities and then people can come up to us and ask questions, and that's why we're like, don't do that.
Yeah, right? Trust me on this, you don't wanna do that.
Yeah. Oh, what do I wish someone had told me? That I wasn't ready for this one. This is a good
Oh, I'm
one.
sorry, I stumped
No,
you.
that's all right. That's right. It's a really good one. I think I wish someone had told me, and I kind of vaguely did this, but I really wish someone had told me to sit down and think about what my future goal is.
Yeah.
Like seriously, like what do I want?
Mhm.
Because when I first started, it was just like putting information out there, putting information out there. And I kind of had built my audience up more of like influencing or something like that, and had like the social media piece or the marketing piece, the teaching that part on, not on the side, it's still part of it. But if there were more balance there, I think I could be further along. The other thing is just to like, and I learned this from my coach, Sarah Dan. She mentioned that you need to put yourself first before
Mhm.
your clients, because you have to treat yourself basically as a client and do what's going to make you money, put money in your pocket first. And
Mm,
when I heard that, I was like, oh my God,
that's
it's
good.
true.
That is
Yeah,
so true.
because I love helping people and helping my clients. And then that has always sort of been like the main focus.
Right.
But if you can't get more clients or you haven't spent time working on what you want, then how do you expect to be able to help people or for people to know enough about you so that you are getting clients so that you can't, it's like a whole circle.
That makes so much sense. That's like an aha right there.
It
You
was an
don't
aha
think
when I
about
heard
it.
it.
Yeah. And I love
But if
Sarah Dan, by the way.
yeah, she's
I
great.
she's awesome. She's not my coach, but maybe one day she will be, but
I
she's
mean, I've
awesome.
taken her classes. Yeah, yeah, I've gotten her classes and are really good.
Yeah.
Um so from that standpoint, I think that mindset shift is good, but also yeah, just like knowing what I wanted to do, because that's what I do with my clients now. I'm like, this is the direction. I'm here to hold that big vision for clients, because you get stuck in the day to day, right?
Yeah.
Like you're like, oh, this is my business. I need to create the content, put the content out, make sure that my employees are paid, get payroll. Like there's so many things that you
Right.
need to do that you can get caught up in the day to day and just making it through the day. But I like that I'm holding that big vision for people to say no. Is that really what we should be working on? Where are the bottlenecks? Where can we make things easier for you? Because this is where you want it to get. Like, let's not forget that in this day to day, the steps were to get to this big thing.
Mhm.
And I wish I had paid attention to that sooner for myself. I always knew I wanted to help people. And I feel like every day I come up with like a new goal of how I can help people. But now I've had like a big vision to work towards, and I think that makes it a lot easier to figure out the rest. I was doing it for other people. That's another thing, the things you do for other people, do them for yourself, because
I don't know why we do that. And
I
I'm
don't
guilty
know.
of that too. And I'm listening to you. I'm like, yeah, like I totally understand how when you set that big goal and I've set that big goal and like, okay,
Mhm.
here's where I want to go, right? And then life does happen. And next thing you
Yeah.
know, you like have gone like
Mhm.
left or right, right?
Yeah.
And you're like way off base from your goal. And it's kind of like, no, you've got to stay focused. And actually staying focused makes it all easier. When you kind of take the
Right.
side road,
Yes.
it creates more confusion. So that I love that you said like you hold on to that big goal and know you said
Yeah.
this. It's almost like you hold on to it or like I need to put a Post-it note
Someone.
on my computer
Yes.
screen so it's like I see it. So every time I need to make the decision is like, does it align with my big goal? Yes,
Yes.
cool. No, forget it.
Exactly. And I'm guilty of that for sure because like I even mentioned it earlier, sometimes you get pigeonholed
Yeah.
into certain things. And if you hold that big vision and you say no, I know it's hard to say no, but if you say no,
Yeah.
then you keep yourself aligned, you keep yourself open to opportunities that'll align with what you actually want to do.
Mhm.
And I don't know, maybe it's like because we're women and we're used to taking care of everybody else. And I think that plays into the business as well. Like you're like, oh no, but I need to take care of my clients, or this person asked for
Yeah.
this. I can do that. Right. And you
Yeah.
start not saying no to things. And that's how we get derailed. So yeah, that's definitely something I wish that I had kind of realized earlier on, or somebody been like, really,
Mhm.
you need to pay attention to what you want to do and what feels good.
Absolutely. I know. There were a couple years ago, I was in a season of yes because I had
Oh
read
yeah.
something or heard something, right? Where it's like,
Mhm.
say yes to everything because that's where all the opportunities are. And I did it. And there
Yeah.
were a lot of opportunities and I don't
Yeah.
regret any of that. Well, right now I'm in my season of no.
Yeah.
And if
Same.
it doesn't align, then it's a no. If it's not heading towards what my goal is, it's a no.
Yeah.
And, maybe next year it'll be a season of yes again. But right now I need
Right.
this season of no for
Yeah.
me, for
Focus.
me,
Yeah.
you know?
No, and I think that's a great point, and I think things can change 1,000%.
Mhm.
Like pivot when you need to. I think it's really smart to know when something's not working and being like, okay, I can't put any more energy towards this.
Yeah.
So I think seasons of yes are work, and then you can be like, oh, maybe that wasn't working out how I wanted, and then
Yeah.
you go into a season of no, and that I think we're both aligned there.
Yeah, I think
And
so. I think so. Well, Dariana, thank you so much for coming on today. This is, as always, it's a great conversation. I love talking to you.
yeah,
Whether we're
same.
on the podcast or we're
Yeah,
sending voice messages back to each
yes.
other back and forth.
I
But
know you're like my marketing support. So no, in general, we're
yeah,
friends too.
yeah.
Yeah, I love coming on the podcast. Like a lot of insights come out when we have these conversations. And thank you for having me. Like I said, I will keep coming back as long as you'll have me. It's really fun.
I love it. I'm going to keep inviting you. So
Thank you.
if you guys want to reach out to Dariana, I would highly encourage you to follow her and connect with her. All of her links are right in the show notes below. So just click on the link and connect with Dariana. She is super cool. I promise you, she is so much information as well, and you won't regret it. All right, everybody, we will
Thank
see
you.
you next week. Bye.
Bye.